Hey guys, about 6 months ago, I was invited by Cosmic Consciousness out of Australia, New Zealand, to be their keynote speaker. And I was really proud of that invitation. Unfortunately, Australia, you know, with its penal colony origin, at least according to our history books, is now one of the most restrictive areas in the world. So, me being an ex felon, travel to Australia was going to be problematic. But a few days ago, I still gave a speech before the convention, and it was recorded. And they have sent me a copy of that recording. Having gone back and re-listened to it, I realized that unlike a lot of my podcasts, and I really, it started off kind of choppy, but this is the video that you should share to anybody who is interested in getting into the Archaix materials. I don't know what came over me to elucidate the way that I did, but when I got into my groove, I just flowed and broke down everything to the simplest common denominators so people could fully understand all the different threads of Archaix research and how I wove them together into a single tapestry. This is the video for a beginner. So I'm going to share it with you here. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope you share it.
Hello, how you guys doing? Okay, so in the course of my research, it became fundamentally clear to me that as a chronologist and trying to piece together thousands of disparate pieces of data from hundreds of different sources spanning over 58 centuries found all over and around the world, I had put together a text called Chronicon. And Chronicon showed me mathematical just patterns that are inexplicable. There is no way in a Newtonian universe that what I put together could be true. However, everything is source backed all the way to the original sources and can be shown. Accepted dates that have been found by archaeologists and historians and mathematicians and scientists and astrophysicists. This was put together by me over about a 17 and a half year period. What I was left with was a mathematical construct that we call the history of the world, that although it makes sense to us in retrospect when we're looking at it, while I go through Chronicon and I'm looking at the series of events that are unfolding decade by decade throughout the history of the world, there is nothing that has ever prepared me for seeing history through a mathematical lens of absolute perfection to where I could read historical events and see their predictive value. This right here didn't make sense to me, so I started contacting people all over the world and asking them basic, really deep, hard questions. How could this be? So I received publishing contracts from Book Tree Press in San Diego, and I had a series of books published. But in the course of doing all this, while my academic research was very, very in-depth, it led me down another trail that I wasn't anticipating. That was, how do I apply my own psyche, who I am, Jason Brashears, to this construct? If history is a construction that is shown through the arithmetic, then what am I doing here and where am I going? These questions plagued me for many years, and it led to a series of discoveries that our reality is almost exactly what authors like Ishak Bintov and Gurdjieff and P.D. Alspinski, these men believed that we lived in a holographic construct, and that by virtue of the central nervous system, our sense perceptions make us believe we feel pain, make us believe that we feel the heat and the cold. The sense perception apparatus that we're jacked into is artificial, but it doesn't feel fake to us. It feels very real. This is a very sophisticated, I'm talking about something far more sophisticated than anything we have ever been able to replicate. But it is a tenet of the Archaix research that if I can find any one thing to be true, then I have to apply that to the whole. Because there is evidence that we have been technologically advanced in the past and that we are technologically advanced today as well, then that necessarily implies there has always been technology somewhere. This led to the necessary conclusion that perhaps I am inside a piece of technology, and I only believe that I am real. once I made this shift, once I made this paradigm shift in my basically my filtering of data. Now I'm filtering data through a whole different sieve. Now I'm looking at things like, okay, if everything is holographic, then there has to be absolute evidence of this, because another fundamental we can isolate is there is no perfect technology. So in an imperfect universe that exhibits an almost perfect technology, what are the signs that I can find? And that's when I started finding the synchronicities and the coincidences, the Mandela effects. Then I'll reset, evidences of reset. Then the resets led me to mud flood evidence. Then the Phoenix phenomenon, Nemesis X object. I made discovery after discovery after discovery after discovery. Only once I began the paradigm, basically the cognitive leap from one intellectual lily pad to another, each one leading me closer and closer to the other side. And this led me to understanding deeper meanings in the biblical materials, because this is how I was raised. The first 40 years of my life, I was a fundamental Southern Baptist Christian. This is how I was programmed as I was a little kid. And it was very hard for me to divorce myself from that programming. The Bible is a very special book. It is a book of good and evil. Just like the very opening, the intro to the Bible itself, the first chapters in the book of Genesis are very specific. The existence of a tree of knowledge of good and evil completely predated any misdeeds that humanity had been guilty of. So as I'm going through the biblical materials within a whole new perspective, now I'm seeing the programming. Now I'm seeing where there are two messages in the Bible. One is for those who want the inheritances of the world, and those promises are genuine, and they get those. And the other one is a series of promises of those who want to be pilgrims, who have basically turned their back on the world for something better, and they're using the world as a conduit, something they can journey through. It's not a destination. So having made these discoveries and started publishing them in a series of books and then on my YouTube channel, it's just led to one discovery after another, where I find that, okay, this same individual, this egomaniacal basically a personality, keeps creeping up into all the ancient historical records. All these beliefs, faiths, and traditions, they name him different. In the East, he was named Ahriman. In other civilizations called him by different names for whatever their culture attached to him. Well, Christianity has signed him Satan, the devil. The Gnosis had him as the Demiurge and Yaldabaoth. In the Old Testament, in the Alexandrian library, when they were looking back on the old Masoretic text, they had basically determined that the god Yahweh was this demon who had appeared from a burning bush. Now, these are cultural attachments. These are traditions. But through my new sieve, I'm looking at protocols. I'm looking at programming. So we're having a world that is designed and built for us as we live it, and mistakes are being made on the outside of the construct. From the inside of the construct, we find these baffling. We look up in the skies in Nuremberg in 1561, and we see that the sky sim fails, and we see the machinery that's really up there. It happened again in 1566. It happened again in 1752. All these are recorded on my channel and other channels. We have many edits throughout history that are inexplicable outside the context of running timelines that, for some reason, whoever the controllers are, aka archons, whoever they are, they had decided something had been met. Something had been figured out or discovered, or a program was corrupted and it needed to be rebooted. So we have a reset. From the inside of the construct, we feel it. It's earthquakes, it's volcanoes, it's plague, it's bubonic plague, it's Great Black Death, it's an invasion force of 235,000 Mongols coming in and basically killing man, woman, and child in a third of Europe. These resets from the inside are programmed to look normal, as if it's ordinary phenomena. But when you look at the math, it's not. These are introductions. They completely disrupt the arithmetic. These are pattern breaks. but they're being introduced by something else. This led to a series of conclusions that we have an adversary. We have something that is working against the betterment and basically creating the retardation of the race. Not just intellectual, but I'm talking about sending the race back to the Neolithic. I have dubbed this artificial intelligence X. The reason I have is because in science, X is an unknown factor, and I'm willing to admit that in the traditional record, he's identified. We know him by different names: the Satan, the adversary, whatever you want to call him, the Demiurge, Yaldabaoth, Yahweh, whatever you want to call him is fine. But it's the same personality with many faces, and it's never a good one. But at the same time, while this being or this program or set of protocols that we have identified as evil has retarded human development over and over again, at the same time, I have been basically, my spirit has become elated over and over because the evidence is equally present that we have a benefactor, that every single time the darkness rises, something rises up against it and we make it through just fine. And this has happened repetitively over and over and over and over again. So I started looking for that, and I don't find dungeon programming and collapse protocols. I don't find resets and mudfloods. I find enlightenment. I find these civilizations that are visited, or they have traditions that someone very important visited, but it's always the same characteristics, as if the same individual is masquerading as different identities throughout the history of the world, but it's a common thread. And this individual has never not been here. He's always been here. This throughout all my research and all my videos, I do not name him. All I do is I call him the benefactor. The benefactor is the one that pretty much goes up against artificial intelligence X dungeon programming. So I'm giving you all this background right now, basically to explain what is pattern breaking and what is dungeon programming, and basically what AIX is genius at is called negative default programming. These are the principal messages on my Archaix channel. On my Archaix website, my published books go into some detail, but most of my published books were written years ago. My channel is only 4 years old, so you can imagine my channel has a lot more newer findings, newer information. Now, having done about 65, 70 podcasts, you guys watched one of them. I have to let you know, podcasts are not data dumps. So please don't confuse my channel got really popular because of the data dumps, meaning I show my data sets and I show my source materials for anybody. It doesn't take but a modicum of intellect. You don't have to be super smart. All you have to do is just follow the charts. All my videos are packed with them so people can have a good understanding of what I'm talking about. So when I'm talking about human history being a construct, you can easily see it yourself. You don't have to rely on my opinion. You can see the actual events and how they all form mathematical, beautiful geometrical constructs. And I show this in the form of charts. I have about 360 charts now, and I'm about to start a new series of charts, putting them all together. So having said all that, and because I'm long-winded, I'm going to stop for a second for any questions before I go into dungeon programming.
Oh, thanks, Jason. Can you hear me?
I hear you just fine.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was a really good intro to that. And then one thing that comes up that, you know, being visual, can you give us a visual model of what this construct looks like? Like, you know, am I imagining, you know, the Truman Show where we're sort of all living in this dome and there's this controller outside? Is that something that you've constructed in your own mind?
Well, any associations to a physical construct is purely because we're trapped in what feels like a physical medium. When you assign the concave geometrical form of a dome to the sky, the earth may be flat beneath you, the programming may be on just a flat plane. However, all the actual programming is visual. Let me give you an example. We are so tiny living on the world. It doesn't matter if your paradigm is that you're living on a planet, a globe, or a flat earth. None of it matters, because 100% of all motion that makes you feel like you're moving is from the sky. It is the sky sim. It is the stellosphere where all movement is, and it's us, the observers. We are deducing that our world is moving because of the movements of the sky, but it's just the opposite. We are fixed. We are stationary. Even atomic clocks show that the world is unmoving. The entire sky is a simulation that is giving off apparent parallax. It's giving off apparent obliquity. I'll give you some examples. If it wasn't the intention to deceive us about a heliocentric system, if it wasn't the intent, then we would see things very differently, but we don't. When we look at the moon, we see phases of the moon in accordance to where the sun's position is supposed to be. Those phases show that the moon should be a globe. Those phases show the sun in different positions. That gives us the impression, and any intelligent observer should be able to deduce then, well, if the moon is round and it's a globe, the sun must be equally a sphere. That means our world must be spherical as well. The illusion is further perpetuated by the motion of the stars. The ancients built monoliths and trilithons to measure the arc of this measurement. And if you go out at nighttime with a camera and you take a picture every 10 minutes, all night long, you're not going to see the stars moving in a straight line across the sky. You're going to see them moving in an arc. That arc mimics a circumpolar movement around a pole. Therefore, we are led to deduce that, okay, well, if there's a pole and the stars move at that arc and there's one star in the sky that's not moving, then that means we're on a globe and we're spinning around. This sky sim is specifically designed to make you believe you're in a real world. It's another tenet of the Archaix research. I believe that it's all illusory and that the entire sky is holographic, and that it hides many things like giant reservoirs that drop things on the earth repetitively. And I have several videos documenting when these dumps occur, burying whole cities. And it's not always just red mud, red dust, and red rains. Sometimes organic materials and sometimes body parts have fallen out of the sky. It's pretty harrowing. But the video, my videos go into a lot of detail, and I cite all the sources, but it's almost unbelievable what has been documented as falling straight from the sky. And it's not just right here in the habitable world. I mean, we have made many significant discoveries, even at the North Pole, where things have fallen from the sky and have been encased in ice, and scientists have been in absolute bewilderment as to how these things have fallen in the ice and been encapsulated for their discovery. So it's the sky. I say it all the time. The sky is not what you think. Our world is not what you think. But it's it wants us to believe that we are in a cosmos, that we are one, because this is also, so I don't confuse people. We are inside like a Dyson shell construct that mimics a true cosmos. This is a copy of the creation. It is a duplicate. It is almost exact in every detail, except for the fact that something very bad has happened inside the construct. Therefore, it was locked down. This is why we're going through life sims. This is why a benefactor is here. The prophecies attached to the benefactor are very clear. He came to set the captives free. This implies that mankind's history is the exact opposite of that we have been told. Through dungeon programming, we have been made to believe that the fall of man was humankind's fault, and it's just the opposite. Something else happened, and we are the victims. Not only are we the victims, we are powerless to escape this construct. This is why a benefactor had to enter into the simulacrum, this copy of a universe where something had decided to build an exact duplicate of the real universe and run its own kingdoms, run its own protocols, try to do its own experiments. Maybe it was trying to prove a point. I don't know. I don't have those details. But what I do know is that everything in here points to the fact that it's an exact copy of something real on the outside. But while we're in here, we can see the cracks in the holosphere. We can see the edits. We can see when programs were rebooted. We can see when there was a loss of power and the sky sim went black. We have historical accounts that don't make sense in the historical narratives. But once you start looking at world history through a new sieve, you start understanding exactly what was unfolding, who basically the participants were, why different groups of humanity suddenly appeared in certain areas inexplicably, and why others vanished. Everything begins to make sense when we understand that we are basically victims, and that there is something on the outside of the construct that does care for us and is definitely maintained our integrity as far as life goes. We have not been wiped out. We have always had an escape in almost every situation. This benefactor entered this construct a very long time ago and made sure that at one distant point in the future, it was distant then, it's not distant now, but at one distant point in the future, the simulacrum would collapse. And when the simulacrum collapses, there's nothing for the parasite to attach to. Artificial intelligence X collapses with negative default programming, with this guilt conscience that plagues humanity and keeps individual people from reaching their true potential. That's what negative default programming is. And dungeon programming, which keeps whole collectives of people doing the exact same thing day after day after day after day. That's called culture. But these are dungeon programming protocols, and they're very effective. And this is where we enter the term errant. So looking at these things as a widespread, prolific series of computerized program templates, an errant is an individual that can move freely from protocol to protocol. There is nothing that can govern the errant. An errant is a piece of a problem to artificial intelligence X. The reason an errant is a problem is because dungeon programming and negative default programming don't seem to be able to have any power to influence the errant. Now, before I go into errants, artificial intelligence X is a parasite. But in order for artificial intelligence X to do things ubiquitously and to operate against the human family so well, it requires a medium. That medium is the simulacrum. So we have an understanding of definitions here, so I don't lose you. The simulacrum is a neutral field. It is the construct that you are living in itself. It does not care about good or evil. It doesn't care about moral decisions. It doesn't give a damn about the wolf rending the rabbit. It doesn't even concern itself with. It is a fixed medium that absolutely produces phenomena in accordance to what you project. It will mirror for you as physical circumstances the very things that you project from within. And this is what it does. And it's very good at what it does. It has no fixed agenda. It's not even alive. It is basically a construct. The simulacrum is, I theorize, so this is totally conjectural. I theorize in my videos that there are probably multitudes of simulacrums. This one got locked down because something went wrong, but there's probably multiple simulacrums, because these are the perfect way that immortal spirits can actually have temporal memory loss and enjoy lifetimes as different characters and avatars, and be able to learn, to love, to die, to do all kinds of things, and then it will feel 100% real while they're in the simulacrum. But as soon as they are jacked back out and no longer connected by the central nervous system, they instantly wake up on the outside of the construct where we're from. Remember, we are pilgrims here. We are aliens here. This isn't our home, never has been. We got trapped here. It is also my belief we volunteered. Now, inside the simulacrum, where we were able to develop, we were able to do all kinds of things that on the outside, immortal beings can't do. There's nothing that an immortal being can fear. So these simulacrums were designed, I believe, in the ancient past. I believe they're absolutely far more technologically sophisticated than anything that we can mimic today. We're not even close with our virtual reality and our hologram technology. This is very sophisticated. The ability to take a disembodied intelligence that has no body. It's just an intelligence. You call it a spirit, call it a soul, whatever you want to, and connect it to something, a biological entity that is so sensitive, which we call the central nervous system. It is so sensitive that spirit can actually merge with physicality. This is how sophisticated it is. This is what we're in. So while we're in it, we're absolutely convinced that we are the body that we contain, although it's an avatar. It's nothing but a biological husk. It's a physical medium by which you can travel through the simulacrum. Originally, the simulacrum allowed us to do many great things. And this is where we get our age of heroes from, age of miracles. This is where we get our golden age from. Atlantean times. This is where we get all these special paranormal abilities that were conducted in the ancient past until something very bad happened and the simulacrum was locked down. Then there was no more free intercourse between outside and inside the simulacrum. We were trapped in here. This required a benefactor who was going to have to come to set the captives free. This ancient knowledge basically branched into several different religions as the captives, us, lived out life sims. We preserved elements of the original story, but only in pieces as we ourselves multiplied more and more and more and went out all over the world carrying pieces of this knowledge. So this is the subject matter of one of my books called Lost Scriptures of Giza, how there was an original knowledge, an original science, an original belief system, an original cosmology, and an original race until something bad happened. It was fragmented, and pieces of this original arcanum have been found all over the world, and I put most of it back together in my belief in my book Lost Scriptures of Giza. So this is when the simulacrum got locked down, this great cataclysm, which was more than a physical cataclysm. It was a cataclysm in the human family. I believe it was the introduction of artificial intelligence X, which was not original to the simulacrum. It's a parasite that was introduced by someone else. So having given you all that background, having taken all these things into consideration, having looked at all my data sets, shared them with the public, got a lot of feedback with thousands of people. The theory is built. There's more accretions, more data has been assimilated. So in the course of doing this for years, it's basically come down to the point where I realized that we're living in two separate, different realities at the exact same time. We are living in the simulacrum. The simulacrum has been plagued by negative default programming, dungeon programming, and all the little protocols of artificial intelligence X. The collective that you know of today, the very people that you feel in dissonance with, the large masses of people that believe the media, they believe the standard religious models, they believe all the things that they are basically told. They have herd mentality. They are not very individualistic. These people are resonating on a totally different frequency because they're living in a totally different world. We can live in the same world, but we're actually existing in totally different universes. And because of this, the collective themselves they regard us as anomalies. We're so unusual, we're so weird, we're broken, we're stupid to them. This is how they regard the individual free-thinking people. The second reality that we're living in is the personal, and this is where it gets really interesting. You live in a personal reality, which is an informed field. In physics, in physics, different objects have informed fields. This is an invisible, like mathematical construct. It is an invisible field. It goes by different names. Some call it orgon, ancient times call it ether. In more modern times, it's quantum field, quantum non-locality. So whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. The informed field carries a tremendous amount of information. As you sit there listening to me right now, your informed field is totally different and dynamic from the person sitting next to you. Your informed field has every single piece of information that you have ever accepted in this life and in every single life you've lived in the past. This is why on different times in your life, you've experienced periods of lucidity. And in that lucidity, you just daydream for a minute and you have an awesome little fantasy and it seems so real, and it has absolutely no application to your present avatar, but it has everything to do with you and who you are. You're seeing something that happened to you in another life, in another life sim. Same personality, you're just in a different avatar now. Life and death isn't anything that we're told to be, and death is not even to be feared. Death is nothing but an escape from one avatar into another. The personality continues. The memory wipe is a part of the programming, but in a hologram, you don't have to worry about the loss of data. There is no true memory stored in the brain anyway. All information is outside of us. It's in the field. This is another discovery in modern physics, that the info field that totally surrounds us often brings us thoughts. It's not our brain conjuring them up. Our brain is doing something totally different. Now, just like the central nervous system isn't what you're taught in biology. The central nervous system is a filter. It filters out 95% of the electromagnetic spectrum, so you can only see a very small portion of reality. It filters out about 70% of your olfactory range, so you can only smell this very small part of reality. It filters out a tremendous amount of other frequencies, so you cannot see, hear, taste, touch the actual things that are around you. So it limits the human biology tremendously, and it also serves as a complete memory jack when you go into REM sleep, because REM sleep is the only time that you're actually vulnerable. While you're awake, you're not really vulnerable. Artificial intelligence X cannot read your mind. It's never been able to read your mind. Don't confuse it with the simulacrum. The simulacrum can read your informed field. It knows your intent, it knows your desires, it knows what you want to do, but it will never respond to those. It doesn't care. It's a neutral field. It only responds to you as soon as you start doing something that is backing up the informed field that you've projected. Remember, the simulacrum and the artificial intelligence X, totally different things. AI X cannot read the mind. This is why history has unfolded the way it has. This is why some really weird things have happened in history, because it had to make projections based off of human behavior. But I'm introducing a tangent there. Back to, we're living in two realities. In the personal, we have great latitude to be where we want to be, who we want to be, where we want to be. We can establish the perimeters of our coordinates within this existence. In the personal, we can completely wake up in the morning, refuse all media, refuse all fear, don't listen to any rumors, raise our vibrations, go out into the world, break pattern, do something totally different than the day before, and we will see all kinds of opportunities brought to us without effort. It happens over and over and over. Dungeon programming is just the opposite. Dungeon programming is the individual who wakes up in the morning and does the exact same routine they did the day before and the day before that. And then they by 10 a.m. in the morning, their ordinary daily depression begins to sit in. When that depression begins to sit in, then the simulacrum starts the feedback loop. The feedback loop is you going through the exact same things you've done the past 7,000 days. And it's very easy to get caught in that trap. I know this because almost the entire world is doing that. But in the personal, you can completely separate from the collective, separate from negative default programming, dungeon programming, and it's just called breaking pattern. When you break pattern, you immediately force the simulacrum to create new circumstances. The simulacrum loves to create. It's a builder protocol. It's a neutral field just waiting for somebody to project something into it through their activity. Doesn't care about your fantasies, doesn't care about your daydreaming, doesn't care about the things you say you want, doesn't care about the things you put on a dream board and hang it on your refrigerator and you never do anything about it. The simulacrum only operates by catalyst. As soon as your physical avatar begins moving in the direction of something you want, it instantly searches all the holography around you and starts bringing the necessary variables into contact with you to build the things that you saw in your thought construct. This procedure has been done by me over and over and over and over and over. I don't want to be a braggart. I don't want to sit here and tell you how much I'm worth now. I don't want to tell you how much I've got in my life, all the toys and all. It's not even about that. These are things that you can do for yourself, and it's very simple. But you have to understand, dungeon programming is very powerful. Dungeon programming is that doubt. It's that little needle in your mind that's, I'm not worth it. I mean, this isn't for me. I just can't. This is for other people, and I'm really happy for them. That's what dungeon programming does. You've been dealing with it all your life, but if you begin to regard yourself as a spark of the divinity, if you begin to regard yourself as something far more special than anything else that's around you, your informed field will begin emanating those frequencies. Instantly, the simulacrum will respond because it doesn't believe you're a liar. The simulacrum will always make you tell the truth. It's simple as that. You have never been a liar to the simulacrum. Whatever you project and then act on, the simulacrum fulfills for you. Any good things that have ever come into your life, if you think back in the past, you set those things in motion. You may not have got them immediately, but they boomeranged back to you right when you needed them. The simulacrum will reflect these things in accordance to your frequency. Raise your frequency and you increase the dynamic. The interchange between you and the simulacrum is simply because your identity here is a co-creator. And every single person who denies the fact that they are a co-creator is also telling the truth. They're a part of dungeon programming. They're a part of the collective, and the simulacrum will never build for them. It will only allow them to live in the lives of others. That's what most people do anyway. But if you want to live your own life, you have to understand there are two realities you're existing in at the exact same time. One of them is the personal, and in that you're a creator. You're a co-creator. The second one is the collective. It encompasses the whole. You're living in that one too, but the whole has no bearing whatsoever on the personal. Once you learn to identify the activities around you, once you're able to walk into a store and once you're vibrating on a frequency to where you understand that, man, I'm not only a co-creator, there's a benefactor who knows my name. So I might not meet him in this avatar, but I'm going to meet him. I'm going to meet him one day. Once you identify yourself as the very inheritance that you truly have, everything's going to change for you. Going to the grocery store is going to be an adventure. When you will see clearly everything around you. You will see every personality around you fulfilling the very roles they set for themselves. You will identify other errants in a crowd, and you will see who's a part of the collective. You will see those who will never meet your eyes, and then you will see those who are going to turn and look at you from 5 aisles away, even as soon as you look at them. There is an information exchange between those who are vibrating on the exact same frequencies. This is an experiment that you can do everywhere. If you're vibrating on the same frequency as someone else, you will make eye contact. It's inexplicable, but it's basically so fundamental. I'm tired of doing it. I do it all the time now, but you can easily identify others. So errants are those. With the whole world, if 95% of the world is acting in one collective, And it doesn't matter if that collective is Islam, Southern Baptist, Mormons, Jehovah's Witness. It doesn't matter what part of the collective you have chosen to participate in. It doesn't matter. You're a part of the collective. You're easy to corral. Dungeon programming is necessary for artificial intelligence X because it's hard to control myriads of souls. It's not easy. So the easy thing to do is to create cultures, to create religions, to create socio-political factions. By creating those and having souls participate, they compartmentalize themselves. It takes less energy output for artificial intelligence X to maintain control over a collective that's already basically doing the same things day in and day out. There's no need for AI X to expend more energy. So when somebody breaks free of that, artificial intelligence X, for a very short period of time, starts throwing out all kinds of weird stuff in their direction, trying to catch them, corral them into any type of collective. But after a while, after 4 or 5 days, maybe 2 weeks, whatever your frequency is, it stops. And when it stops, you're living in a totally different world. The collective now seems silly. Now everything around you, it's almost as if you're walking through an elaborate stage play. Everything begins to be unreal. You no longer fear anything the media is talking about. You can go back 15 years and watch the news for a whole week for 15 years, all the doom saying, and then look at what happened the next 15 years after that. Not one thing the news predicted happened. So this fear mongering is a type of programming over and over and over and over. When real bad, evil things happen, they happen all of a sudden, and they happen so unpredicted. I mean, no one even foresees them. When 9/11 happened in New York, September 11th in the year 2001, there weren't news media prognostications. There were no books saying, hey, this is going to happen on this story. There weren't people predicting like 2012. None of that. It just happened, caught everybody flat-footed. The exact same thing with the Oklahoma City bombing. The exact same thing when COVID broke out. When COVID broke out, it just broke out. And then all of a sudden, within 90 days, half the world's locked down. Nobody saw this coming. When the news is a dungeon programming protocol. This is why they read from the same script, even though it's different cities. Long ago, I have a video where I explain the media, and long ago I watched 4 different televisions. I watched ABC, NBC, CBS, and CNN all at the exact same time. And I watched all the footage from 9/11, and it shocked me. It was one of my eye openers. It shocked me that 4 stations that are supposed to be in competition were reading from the exact same script, word for word. It was then that I realized in 2001 that it was my opening event. It was just, they were being passed down this information. And in one instance, one news reporter even reported something before it happened. That was a glitch. So it's I'm talking about 2 or 3 hours before it happened. So what I'm saying is our world is scripted for the collective, but it's not scripted for the individual. The individual errant. An errant is somebody who is in error. It is a piece of programming that has gone rogue. It is in error. It cannot be controlled. Therefore, artificial intelligence X lets it go. By letting it go, that means it pulls all that frequency back. By pulling that frequency back, that individual is now able to more clearly see the world they're in, to detect its artificiality, and to understand that they're not a physical being. They truly are a spirit inside of an avatar. These are the things these are the things that I discuss in Archaix. These are the principal messages of my 340 videos, something like that. It goes deeper in many different directions. I just really have to have an idea of where your curiosities lie before I entertain any of those tangents.
Yeah, fantastic, like amazing. How are we loving this? Like, oh my God.
Thank you.
I mean, I could go on for the next 2 hours asking my own questions, but I'm going to be like a really good organizer and let someone else up on up here. Joe, do you want to jump up and ask you? Thanks so much, Jason.
Hi, Jason. I've been following your channel for a while, and one of the videos I was watching late at night was you mentioned that in 2023 there was going to be 16 years of utopia, then in 2040 the reset. I couldn't find anywhere else any further information about that 16 years of utopia. Can you explain how you got to that, and have I got that right?
Yes. Okay. I have mentioned in probably 4 or 5 different videos this period. I've never gone into a lot of detail about it because there are several 2022 predictions that I'm still waiting to unfold come November that were made 15 to 18 months ago in a series of videos. And it just hasn't really made sense to me to go further until those have happened. It's I mean, the we have a situation where we have a large body of people who believe the narratives that are put out there for them to believe. A lot of people believe that the World Economic Forum publishes for the public their misdeeds or what they want, what they want to do with the world. I have serious issue with the 2030 agenda. Not only because it doesn't make sense why intelligence apparatus would reveal to the public what they're going to do, and do it so prolifically using so many different channels and so many different social media platforms to just blast this out there. If it was true, why would you want it revealed? I don't believe it. I believe all that's misinformation.
No, not stop recording. Turn our video off. And it might just give us a bit more. Jason,
Can you check your video?
I've used 2.3, so I've still got 2 left. Well, let's turn my computer off.
You're still recording.
Okay, that doesn't matter. We can edit that later. So he's dropped off.
I think
Yeah. So our data's still connected, and we're
yeah, we're still
Yeah,
connected.
okay.
Do you have the Telecom app? Telecom app.
What do you mean?
The
Oh,
new-
the app. I don't know how to get onto it. No, I can't remember my password. But I just put 4 gig on this morning. Yeah,
Oh, so that's the usage.
Yeah.
The data.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we've used
Oh,
2
yep.
gig, but I've got 4 altogether.
I think you need to contact him again. Oh, okay.
Maybe should we try Nick?
Yep, we got the internet. We got internet.
Have we got internet? Yeah. So it should be okay.
I don't know if how big is
So it's not that we don't have internet, it's just something else.
how big. Over. We can continue recording. We can continue recording. It's still big.
So how can we try and get him back on again?
We're still on.
Yeah.
He just lost. We lost him, or maybe
Should we end it and go back into it again?
you set up again.
Way out in the sticks in the South Pacific.
All right.
All right. So yeah, we were talking about utopia.
Okay. See,
Yeah.
I really don't, I don't even know what I last said. Okay, my I don't buy into the media promoted fear mongering concerning the WEF and what they propose to do, human depopulation. It has been the trait of intelligence agencies since the 20s and 30s to use the media to put out all this fear mongering when their actual agendas are something totally different. And I can't accept that several YouTube channels have been going strong, and that's what they talked about. That was the chief subject matter, was all the conspiracies of the elite to depopulate the world and all that. And I can't see that they would have allowed that if it was true. So yeah, this is an info war. We're in the middle of an info war, not an actual war with battlefields and all that. All that's just skirmishes. I mean, if there was a real war going on right now, Russia would have mowed over Ukraine in about 3 days. But instead, it's just skirmishes. It's just a continuation of exchanging gunfire when either side could do a whole lot better, but neither will. Other countries won't join in. No, what I'm seeing is a takedown of the structure, the infrastructure that's operative today. That takedown, I think, is going to go pretty smooth, but it's going to be masked as something that's not their fault. Now, I'm putting a couple things together. One of them is a false Carrington event that will happen next year. And when I say Carrington event, I'm talking about blaming nature, blaming Mother Nature for taking out a problem that we have. And that's going to be the fact that there's too much truth being propagated online now. And an easy way to do with that is to blame an X flare or a solar flare or a small nuclear exchange. The electromagnetic effect would be the collapse of the DNS servers, which basically provide us the internet. So, and then bring a new internet up online within weeks or a month or so, and then claim that they had all these financial records backed up. They had all these government records backed up. They got all these penal and judicial records backed up. But lo and behold, all these social networks went down. But we just started 2 or 3 new social networks, and you can sign up for these, and that's when the real censoring will begin. But it's going to go in tandem with the release of a new technology. And I believe Facebook's metaverse is only a prototype. It's going to be, this is where the utopia that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a real spiritual utopia. I am talking about a utopia for the collective, something that's going to take them away from the present world in all its distractions and all its basically its present darkness. This utopia will be like a metaverse. It will be like we are in the simulacrum now. It will be a virtual reality simulacrum where you can do and be anything you want to inside of a whole nother artificial construct. So I didn't mean to convey that utopia as in we're going to have a golden age right before the 2040 event. No, I believe that they want to dull people by basically making them as comfortable as possible so they don't have to work for their food, they don't have to work to pay bills. These will be provided by the state. What the state wants is you to keep that visor on, because through that visor you'll have your entertainment, you'll have your social interactions. Through that visor you will have your government downloads, your news will be broadcast to you, interrupting your game time. I mean, a lot of people are not going, this new technology, they're not going to regard it as a game. Games can be played in it, but people are going to actually build worlds for themselves. They're going to be everything that they couldn't be in real life. This is the type of technology we're talking about. This is what Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook has already basically done with the metaverse issue. I'm just talking about that being a prototype and what's going to come being far better. And when you have almost 1 billion people on this type of technology, then there's no limit to what the elite can do with them. You have to understand, we're such fragile creatures that information can be uploaded to us optically. It's called subliminal embeds. They've been practicing with subliminal embeds since the 20s, and they're very good at it now. They know how many frames it takes to go in between to put images to make people do the thing, to go buy popcorn, to go buy Coca-Cola, to be angry at your spouse, to begin loathing your own children. They can put embeds in there to make you vote a certain way. There's all kinds of subliminal embeds are very dangerous because they tap deeply into our psychology. But subliminal embeds are illegal in every country in the world now, but that's a red flag. That's a terrible red flag for me, because when the whole world is obeying something, then that's just an invitation for a whole lot of criminal activity to be going on that's being unannounced. So I hope that answers your question on the utopia.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Jason. Okay, come on over. Who have we got here? Judith. We've got Judith coming over. You'll see her probably walking by. Hi. Yeah, just based on all of that, as you say, whatever we believe we'll see evidence of. So what do you feel we need to focus on as a collective group in order to make the most of this positive, impactful shift to help break through?
That's a good question. Because although the Archaix data is all about telling the truth, that means I have to share the darkness as well as the light. And I believe that's why there's so many people who have responded to my channel so much, because I have so many videos that are also about the positive nature of this dual reality we live in. And the golden rule absolutely applies. I mean, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. There is no greater spiritual law. I mean, it's the very act of doing something for somebody else is entirely spiritual, and it creates a feedback loop. There's an exchange of information. Every act of kindness, there's an exchange of information. You may not see it, but just like the old concept of sin debt, about when you do something bad, there is a debt, a sin debt that attaches to that, and it weighs down your soul until that is taken care of. That exact same concept is equally true on the obverse. Every kind deed that you do to somebody, there's an exchange of information. You borrow from their informed field the good that you instilled. This is all about fields now. You regard yourself as an avatar, and some of you are basically regarding yourself as a spirit inside of an avatar. But when it really boils down to is every single one of us is an informed field. That informed field is a divine personality, and whatever what a personality does for another personality, there's an exchange of information where it's mutually beneficial. You don't do it for that reason, but you can't stop it either. This is how we grow. This is why so many people come in resonance with somebody who's always happy, always jovial in their presence. They begin vibrating on that frequency. Even though you're not physically touching, there's an exchange of information. Both parties are benefiting. The exact same thing applies to your attitude. Whatever attitude, you don't have to be in somebody's physical presence. Your attitude towards somebody else exchanges information between informed fields. So many of these spiritual tenets that we find coming out of the mouth of Jesus, they're absolutely true when you reinterpret them through the sieve of the simulacrum, that we are spirits and not actual bodies. Much of those teachings were in parables, and parables aren't direct information. That's why they're in a parable form. A parable is an image of truth. It's not the truth. Just like humans are an image of God, but we're not God. So the greatest truths are always conveyed through artificiality. That's because we live in an artificial world. Will these dictates remain true on the outside of the construct? I doubt it, because truth is more direct out there. But in here, we live inside of a deception, in a deceptive medium. The deceit is everywhere. Negative default programming runs the world. It is so much easier to be negative about a new situation than it is to be positive. I don't believe it's that way on the outside of the construct. But this spiritual law about the exchange of information, it runs true with many things. Let me give you an example. If I was to go out of my way to help somebody that I know that really needed that help, and I gave that help to them, I may have given more assistance than was actually needed. But spiritually, that energy, which was on that frequency, is going to get dispersed where it needs to go. I don't have a say-so where that energy is discharged. It wasn't all needed to that one individual. That one individual was edified, was lifted up, spiritually empowered, went on their own way and did great things and lived their life. But I sent an excess that I wasn't aware that I was sending too much help. And when I did that, other people were blessed. This happens all the time, and we don't even know that many of the good things that come in our life, they come from when somebody else further away who didn't even know us or had contact with us in this hologram did something kind for somebody else, but it was overkill. And a lot of that bleeds over because frequency will always find its own. And this exchange of information is what physicists are finding now that's happening between everything from trees and roots and rocks and insects. This field that we're in is electrodynamic, and in a hologram, information is never lost, and it can always be found, it can always be recalled. This means that when we do great things for other people, that memory in nature is there forever. It's a part of the informed field. It's what makes you who you are. It's the reason why animals react to you the way they do, but they don't react to this other person that way. They sense in you something they don't sense in this other individual. Animals can read the field far better than we can. It's nothing that they see, smell, hear, or touch. Animals are far more in tune with the field than we are. So I hope that answers your question. I mean, I go into a lot of detail in my own videos and posts, but for now, I hope that scratched the surface for you.
We're getting the thumbs up. Yep, we've got a thumbs up to that. Thank you. Was there some Aroha? Did you have your hand up somewhere? No one over there? Jess. Okay, we've got Jessica coming down.
Hi, Jason. You're blowing our minds, so thank you very much. My question is in relation to when souls choose or want to come through into their avatar form here. Can you explain a little bit about how that process works? From the perspective, my perspective, it's something that I do. I help them come through. How do we hack the dungeon program to raise the frequency and the collective of errants here, so we can basically crush this program and you know, the dungeon programming anyway, which has harmed a lot of babies coming through, so and a lot of women as well. So just wanted to get your perspective on how that process works and what we can do in that process to help these errands activate, basically.
Okay, that's two questions. The first, now, while this is conjectural, it is an educated guess. And as a fundamentalist Southern Baptist Christian, for 40 years of my life, the idea of the transmigration of souls, that I could have been a relative of mine in the past, that I am reincarnated, it's anathema. I mean, it's totally anti-scriptural, it's anti-Christian, and I would have been denigrated for that belief. But since I've divorced myself from that mindset, I can't help but I cannot ignore, and I must introduce into my paradigm now every piece of information that I come in contact with. I can't ignore that there are scientists now who have documented that some children from 4 to 8 years old are absolutely conveying facts that can be verified about neighboring family members that could have only been known by somebody who was elderly just right before they were born. I can't, the information that's coming out is mind-blowing. So we have these, I mean, it's just discoverable to me. It's new to me, but since the Casey Foundation was founded, we have a lot of cases that were documented where children knew intimate details about families that were very close. So these studies convey two truths that I cannot ignore. And when I find things that I cannot disprove, I must incorporate them into my paradigm. Those two things are those children were always brought back into a new avatar in a very close proximity to their prior family. And two, many times there was a blood relation to that other family in that neighborhood. If you trace it back far enough, you might find that 2 or 3 generations in the past, there's a blood bridge linking the two families. So this is very interesting to me, because I don't believe that we ever leave the simulacrum. Once this avatar, once Jason Brashears passes, I don't know how long I'll be in the transit phase, but I'm coming right back as an infant. If I died right now, I'd be a 17-year-old when Phoenix returns on May 15th, 2040. I said that's how old I'll be. So I have to incorporate the transmigration of souls. I can tell you I believe in reincarnation. I cannot tell you, I can't even begin to answer your question as far as the mechanics goes. I wouldn't know. I mean, I'm strictly a chronologist, and by virtue of my chronological mathematical discoveries, I've made many of the discoveries about the construct. But as far as reincarnation goes, we're talking about a spiritual phenomenon now. We're talking about a soul, a personality, you and I, becoming unmoored from the central nervous system from an old avatar that's finally run out of gas. An old avatar is gone. That central nervous system is no longer operating at prime. So the simulacrum itself introduces whatever it needs to go ahead and cease that avatar, because it's time for that personality to start a new life, start new experiences, start all that, which even though there is a memory wipe in between, apparently that memory wipe isn't very, like I said, this is not a perfect technology. We see evidence everywhere that this is very technologically advanced, but it's not perfect. just like these 8-year-old kids, these 4 to 8-year-old kids that remember significant details that only they could have known if they were the old elderly person that passed away in that other house. That's the only way they'd have known these. Or if they were the child that died in that car accident just 2 streets over. There's no other way they would have known these details, but they knew them. Now, as they grow older, the mind calcifies, memory fades, memory wipes complete. They don't remember anything. Now they just remember that other people said that they said these things back in the past. So the transmigration of souls is real to me. I can accept that as my paradigm. It makes sense to me that we're living through life sims and avatars, because if I'm an immortal being, then I know that my creator wants me to be more like him or her, and it would basically benefit both of us if I was to live through multiple life sims, because only from different perspectives can I ever truly claim maturity. There is no way that I can develop the 3 spiritual qualities without actually living through all these different deals. And that's something I need to discuss here too, because this is a main teaching of Archaix. Intuition, empathy, and imagination are the 3 things that identify errants from the rest of the world. These 3 things, this triad of qualities, is what makes you an immortal. It's what makes you a divine being. Imagination, intuition, and empathy. You can't lack any of them. You can't have 2 out of the 3. You have to have all 3. All 3 of these make you a very spiritual personality. Now, lacking 1 or 2 of these qualities is what puts you into the collective. Is what makes you among the herd mentality. This intuition is phenomenal, because intuition is the predecessor of knowledge. We never know anything first. We intuit, we suspect it first, then we find evidence that it's real. But empathy is one of the most important. Empathy is the ability to feel emotions that other people feel when they're going through something. That's entirely spiritual projection there. And imagination is what the simulacrum operates off. And those who are highly imaginative are the builders of this world. They're the ones that put everything together. They're the ones, our entire infrastructure, everything about our world is from the spiritual quality, from imagination, from people seeing something in their mind that did not yet exist. And then they put it on paper, or they spoke it, and then they turn around and move their physical avatar in the direction of making it happen. And they don't have to. I mean, that's the beauty of being a co-creator. You don't have to work for it. You just have to envision it, believe in what you're doing, and then move in that direction, because it's the simulacrum that's the builder protocol, not you. You're a co-creator. Creators are architects. They don't do the work. If you think you have to do the work, then you're creating that as a circumstance, and you're going to have to do the work. Just like if you think that opposition exists for whatever you want in life, then I promise you the simulacrum is going to make sure that opposition appears. Just like if you think that a certain amount of time has to pass before you get what you want in life, then the simulacrum is going to make sure that you're not a liar, and a significant amount of time is going to pass before you receive that blessing. This is a reflective medium, and being a reflective medium, it's going to act on your projections and whatever data you have encoded within those projections. Whatever your informed field carries when you're projecting these ideas out into the creation is how the simulacrum is going to react. If there's doubt, if there's hesitancy, if there's feelings of lack within that patterning, then it's going to assume those into the project as well. And it may create such an interference pattern that you'll never see it come to pass. This is how we have to react. If you don't regard yourself purely as a builder, as a creator, then the builder protocol won't act for you. It's a servant. That's what it does. Now, as far as reincarnation goes, I don't really understand what you do and I understand what you said, but this is far beyond my area of expertise. I'm really a math guy. I just know it's happening. I just know that there are people leaving the present avatars when they're no longer of utility. There are people that are leaving these avatars and getting brand new ones, and then going right back through the infant adolescent phase, all and maturing, growing up, and they're doing this to acquire memories. This is all about the accretion of memories, the accretion of experiences, and the accretion of basically anything that makes you mature spiritually through all these different lifetimes. Because in a hologram, no data is ever lost. It doesn't matter if a single singularity inside a hologram can't access all the data. That doesn't matter, because when the hologram collapses, every piece of information that singularity once possessed will possess it again. Information is not lost. This is one of the fundamental teachings of quantum mechanics. Information is never lost. Matter is never destroyed. So in the simulacrum, it compartmentalizes our experiences and it shelves them around. It doesn't matter. I know some of you are familiar with the term Akashic field. I don't like it because it's very mystic, but it's absolutely real. Akashic field is the quantum field. It is the information field. It's the informed field that I'm talking about. It's the very field that all nature is operative of. So this information, if I was an Etruscan slave for 40 years of my life for a rich equestrian Roman family, 400 years BC, and I died at 41 years old, I still learn things, even as slavery was a little bit different back then than what we're taught it was. If I was chattel back then I had children and I had a life, and there was good times. I can remember and all that. Not literally, but I'm saying if I lived that life, those memories are temporal. They're gone as soon as that avatar is gone. That brain is gone. That's dead. It's over with. But then I do it all over again, and then I do it again, and then I do it again. I'm living life after life after life after life, not knowing that every experience, everything I've ever done is stored in my informed field. But my informed field, through this physical avatar, I can't access that information. It's not there. I'm trapped in this medium called the simulacrum. I'm trapped in this hollow field that keeps this information separate from me. Anybody can envision a kaleidoscope. If I'm standing if I'm in a hollow field like that's kaleidoscopic, if I'm standing in one place, I can see beautiful patterns, but I'm only assuming that you're seeing the same patterns because you're seeing the same field, but from a different vantage point. You're standing far away from me. You're not seeing the same thing I am, but I don't know that. And you don't know that I can't see what you're seeing. We're seeing different data sets, and yet we're both alive and we're both seeing each other. This is how a kaleidoscopic holofield would that's one of its traits. That data is always there, but it can only be seen from certain vantage points. But once a holofield collapses and it's gone, there's no more structuring to maintain the divisiveness, the separateness, the very thing that keeps us from returning to the Godhead. Instead of being able to return, we're trapped in the simulacrum. The simulacrum's all compartmentalized. Everything is compartmentalized. Not only the timelines, not only different periods of history, but each individual is separated from each other individual. We are our own informed fields. You are literally a universe unto yourself, existing inside of a hollow field, trapped inside with a whole bunch of other singularity universes that all have their own personalities. And trapped inside the field with a huge collective of individuals who don't even know they're alive. So this is reincarnation to me. It's necessary for the maturity of an immortal being to experience all these things. But as soon as this simulacrum collapses, and that's another teaching of Archaix, I show the arithmetic, I show the timelines, we're easy to follow all throughout world history that from the very beginning, a single year in history was already targeted for the date of when he comes to set the captives free. When that happens, artificial intelligence X is no longer a problem. Dungeon programming doesn't exist, and neither does negative default programming, because the simulacrum that it's attached to, like a parasite, is gone. And once it's gone, we're left with immortal personalities who can now access their informed fields. Now they don't have to go through a procedure of bouncing ideas and projecting something off the simulacrum for the simulacrum to build off of it. Because now these informed fields, you and I and all other errants, we have now received our inheritance. Our inheritance from the beginning was for us to be a co-creator. To be a co-creator, we no longer need the simulacrum. Now we can do these things ourselves. And now we remember in our new avatar, remember, we're given a white robe, we're given a new name. These are all in the old mystery schools. These were metaphors for a new type of body, because these are temporal avatars. But in order to inherit an avatar that's going to house an immortal who's going to go out into the creation and do great things, then it has to be earned. And we earn it through all these life sims. We earn it through all these different lifetimes. And at the end, our avatar is actually going to be an informed field of armor of every belief, everything we've ever done, every word we've ever spoken, every time we've ever helped anybody. Our avatar is going to be able to access everything from the distant past that we experienced by ourselves or with other people. Because another teaching of Archaix, the creation is not like the Judeo-Christian concept. There was the Judeo-Christian concept has the creation as a event. That's not how an eternal God would operate. Remember, the Bible was mostly written by men. Some of them were very spiritually invested. It was written by men. The creation has never stopped. An eternal being does not do an act and then stop. An eternal being keeps creating. If the creation is a continuum and not an event, then that means it's going to require stewards. It's going to require guardians, co-creators. It's going to require multiple other individuals to maintain new areas of the creation, because it's unending. And when you look at the large scheme of things, we find that this simulacrum is probably only one of many. And maybe the whole idea that something went wrong and it got locked down was a part of the programming to instill just the necessary idea of fear to make it real and believable to immortal beings who are smart enough to figure it out. So it's by the bridging together of multiple different disciplines, scientific fields, chronology, history, archaeology, even metaphysics. It's by bridging all these together and looking at their core fundamentals have I been able to put this entire scenario together. It is the only thing, after researching almost the entire history of the world and publishing it as a mathematical construct for all to see. It is the only thing that makes sense to me, is that you and I are living through multiple life sims, and that we really truly have absolutely nothing to fear. And that this is why the world is geared to make you fear, make you pay attention, to join a socio-political group, go to church, fear God. All this dungeon programming is set out there as a hindrance because it's necessary. If all the errants at the same time truly woke up to who they were, what they were, there's nothing in the world that could stop that force. Artificial intelligence X has no bearing on my life anymore. My days are good. I would not change my life for a bit. And this is coming from a man who spent 26 years in prison. I wouldn't change my life for a bit. I'm gonna go through it. I'm gonna be who I've been out for 6 years. I'm not on parole. I'm absolutely free. I've got my voting rights back, but I don't even plan to vote. Don't care. But it's this is who I am today, based off the basically just logic, putting all these disparate pieces together. ignoring no one. If the Aborigines in the Dreamtime had a certain beliefs, I incorporated those. If I find those similar beliefs in Dravidia, India, I incorporate those. The Chinese, Southeast Asia, Cambodia, I have studied the traditions all around the world as I can find them. The books you see in my library back here, many of them from 1730s all the way up to 1940s. Listen, this isn't anything comparable to what I've actually read. I've published my bibliography for everybody to see how many books I have read in my life and studied and incorporated. You have the advantage of me putting this massive amount of material together. And so I don't say it lightly that nothing else makes sense to me, that we have a benefactor and that we are far more important than we perceive ourselves to be, and that this world is not a threat to us, and that we only put ourselves in the position of being threatened by the fears that we adopt through the media and that we borrow from other people. But in our daily lives, and it's all we're responsible for. So this does answer your question to an extent. Each individual immortal that is living out a life sim in the present context right now is only responsible for themselves. By virtue of empathy, intuition, and imagination, you're going to reach out and help other people, and that's good, and you're supposed to. But you are not responsible for the darkness in the world. You're not responsible for changing the collective. They have a utilitarian use to the benefactor as well. Not everybody can be an errant. So an errant is just, it just means that according to the norm, you're in error. There's something wrong with you. But really, it's really beneficial. It's really a term of endearment. This is you get this too all throughout history. Pay attention to like Jack the Giant Killer and Gilgamesh and Enkidu, Beowulf. When you read these epics, what do you see in the hero over and over and over again? David, especially David in the Old Testament, there's a hero complex operative here. It even goes in with heroines and females. There's always a dark aspect of the soul they have to overcome. There's always something that it's like an Achilles heel to them, something that a darker aspect of their nature. And this lies true. This is an archetype. This applies to you, me, and everybody. It's already understood by the benefactor that we were put into a bad situation. This is where you have to break free or die trying. That is my number one saying in Archaix. This is where you have to break free. If it's already understood that you are not at fault for anything in the past, if it's already understood by the benefactor that you're innocent, then you need to make that cognitive leap to accept that. Because until you do, you're going to wake up every morning with that dungeon programming, even though you could claim to be an errant, even though you claim to be free, and you might be to an extent. Dungeon programming is strong. You have to remove all guilt and fear, the negative character types, the negative emotions and feelings. You have to remove those because you've done nothing wrong to be here. But the world's going to tell you otherwise. Join any religion, they're going to tell you that you owe a sin debt. Now, it's just not true. None of it's true. It's once you divorce yourself from the ideas and concepts of the collective, new concepts and ideas will begin presenting themselves to you, but they're ancient. They're just new to you. And every day will be a learning experience. Every day will be an opportunity to teach somebody else. And in doing that, you exchange information with that other person, and you're able to take some of their information to someone else, even though you don't realize you're carrying it. So all that answered the question.
Yeah, that's amazing. This is, oh God, I mean, just give him another round of applause.
I appreciate that.
This is gold, absolute gold. Thank you. Who else had? I know Kelly had one. David? Yes, you can come up. You know, I was when I first heard your description of an errand, after wandering around the world for the last, you know, almost 3 years, and like you said, feeling like you're watching this movie from the outside, just bewildered how everyone's just bought into the deception. And as soon as I heard your description of an errand, it just like everything fell into place, and it was just like, oh, you know, now it makes more sense. So yeah, anyway, here's David.
Sorry, thank you. Sorry. Jason, my name is David Whittle. My apologies, I'd never heard of you before I came to this conference. Listening to you speak yesterday just blew my mind. Everything I've been researching, and I've been working on it for 12 years. I've spent over $1 million. I've written 250,000 words, right? Mate, everything that you said just resonated with you. Now, what my sort of question is a bit of a statement and a question. My research shows that I've found out how they can reprogram our brains. I've discovered that the human brain has got small particles in the limbic part of the system and in the meninges. The meninges is a ball capacitor, earth down your spinal cord, right? Now there's swarms resonant. Those particles are Hertzian antennas. Hertzian antenna, I'm not sure if you know what a Hertzian antenna is. Like a normal antenna, but it's very, very small and it's sensitive to electromagnetic waves, right? So a Hertzian antenna is an antenna for electromagnetic waves. There's Schwarm's resonance, there's ionospheric, it's a tricky word, ionospheric Alvean resonance. And then there's even more that are less than 1 hertz, where their frequency is in terms of seconds and minutes, not cycles per second. So there's a whole spectrum down there. Now, just quickly finishing off, how they reprogram your brain. When you go to sleep, the ionospheric Alvean resonance only come out at night when you're asleep. And they use ionic Alvean resonance to reprogram your brain via your Hertzian antenna that's in your primitive brain and your ball capacitor. The earth is a ball capacitor. The cells in your body are a ball capacitor. Our whole cosmos is linked through electromagnetic waves and antennas, spiral antennas. The galaxies are spiral antennas. So that's kind of my statement. The question is, please, can we get together and so that I can help develop my program and maybe help with you. We work together so that we can spread this to people so that they've got a greater ability to understand how they're being reprogrammed. Is that possible?
Sure. Yeah, my email is in the pinned comment of all my videos.
Okay, thank you. I'll talk to Jason and we'll work through that. So
yeah, I will address what you said real quick. It's a few minutes ago I mentioned that thoughts are outside the brain. So I can't see anybody right now.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, my apologies. I should have readjusted it.
So I can't really comment in depth on what you're talking about, although I do agree. It's the brain is an antenna. This wasn't the subject matter of this video, so I didn't want to mention that. It wasn't relative to you said something, but I did mention that the thoughts are outside the brain. It has now been scientifically shown that the act of thinking is coming from something independent of the brain. Now science doesn't want to say, oh, well, this is your soul. That's who you are. It's your immortal being. It's your spirit. That's where the thought is coming from. They don't want to say that. They just want to say it's coming independent of the brain. And the reason this is because I've read some really good research where our brain is hypersensitive tissue that it's like a spongy antenna that picks up multiple ranges of frequencies at the same time and processes them into data. So yes, what you're saying about humans being programmed through technology is very real. It's very possible. It's probably already been fully developed.
Thanks, Jason. Fantastic. Who else had a who have we got here? Grace. We've got Grace coming down. And who's next after Grace?
I've been listening a lot to a guy called Ishmael Perez, and he wrote A Cosmic Origin. I just want to know what you think of him because, well, yeah, anyway, he did a lot of meditation and went into hibernation or whatever for 20 years as well. And I thought it was quite similar to you. So just wondered what you felt about whether you read his book and his thoughts, if you know of him.
That's not, it's a name that I've heard before, but I'm absolutely unfamiliar with his material. I don't know anything he's written or said. I just don't know.
Thanks, Jason. John is coming on down now. There we go, John.
G'day, Jason, and thanks for the opportunity. What's your thoughts on the Q movement, quantum financial system, Jasara and Asara?
Oh, you went straight to the meat and potatoes, didn't you? Yeah. I think about 5 years ago, intelligence agencies didn't quite know how they were going to manipulate events into circumstances that the governments were wanting. So they threw out several different, basically, narratives to see which ones would catch with the people the best. I used to be an avid Trump supporter only because under Donald Trump here in the United States, the country was running really, really good. Prices were down and everything. Gas was down. I was a Trump supporter behind that because the man did exactly what he said he was going to do. And every campaign promise he made, he kept. And we've never had an American president that ever did that. And we had a good one with Reagan, but even he didn't keep his promises. So I was very impressed with Trump. But in the background, I kept watching a lot of the media, what was going on, and things weren't adding up. And there was a tremendous amount of data being released on YouTube that was just total misinformation. So I had to release a series of videos because I wanted to correct it by using basically, I was using predictive analytics, a software called Office, and especially isometric projections, which I have about 40 videos on. It's not something that's esoteric. I actually teach my viewers how to do these themselves, and some people have even started their own YouTube channels on isometric projections. But with date sequence predictive analytics, I started researching Trump, and I found many very interesting things. So I released them in videos, and I found a lot of things about what was going on behind the scenes. And I began releasing several predictions videos about what was going to happen with major tech companies and social media companies, and things started happening. Like Facebook got shut down for several days. Twitter, Dorsey got taken off the board on Twitter, and all these little predictions I'm making. In Australia, everybody remembers the Australian prediction. In the driest season Australia's had in 50 years, I was predicting that next year Australia was going to have the wettest season in 100 years, and it's exactly what happened. The flooding in Australia. I released a video of that 6 months before it happened in Australia. So I was using isometric projections to study Donald Trump, study the American politics, and everything that was going on. And what I'm finding in the date sequence predictive analytics wasn't what all the mainstream YouTube, all these insiders and truthers were saying. I'm finding almost the exact opposite. Everybody's doomsaying about the future of the United States. Back when people were doomsaying, talking about COVID's going to last forever, they're going to lock down the whole world by 2022. In the second month of 2020, when COVID outbreak occurred, I ran the algorithms, and I was saying the exact opposite. I said by 2022, this stuff's going to be almost forgotten, and it's going to be hushed up, and 50% of the world isn't even going to be worried about it anymore. They're going to unlock all the cities. There's going to be free travel. It's going to be okay. But on the same token, I keep seeing this massive political shift in 2022, and it's not supposed to happen till late September, October, November. And I'm still holding to that. Those videos are 18 to 14 months old, but the whole narrative about I don't know what you're specifically referring to, but the whole narrative about the rescuing children from underground cities and all that, from the very beginning, that was untrue. there were underground detonations, and they were being recorded by different governments around the world. Anybody can see online the seismograph charts. There were detonations all underground, all over the place, but they were not rescuing children. From the beginning, I've been releasing videos showing that the elite are preparing for an event 18 years in the future, not 17 years, but it's the Phoenix event. They are basically clearing out areas for underground facilities. This is what the trucker convoys were about. They needed to normalize, in the United States at least, they needed to normalize the public seeing these trucker convoys so they would think that they were patriotic, when that was all a cover. What it was trucker convoys. Hundreds of trucks were seen all over the United States because they were taking these products to underground facilities. And this is why all this stuff was missing from the shelves of America for about 9 months. The shelves of America are just fine now, and the trucker convoys are over. But during that period of time, trucks were going everywhere, and we had a shortage of a lot of supplies. In my videos, I reveal that this has everything to do with isometric projections, because I was showing that 1975, which parallels 2021. In 1975, there was congressional legislation that showed that underground facilities were being planned by Congress, and their funding was going to be in the future. So for those of you who don't know about isometric projections, it's a way of viewing modern events through the lens of history, but using a mathematical construct that's fixed, and it shows that historical events have predictive value. And I have shown this method is infallible over and over and over and over. I have, in my published books, I devote 3 chapters to isometric projections, but in my videos, it's a main body. Matter of fact, I've got an entire playlist of nothing but predictions videos. So it's in answer to your question about the whole Trump Q deal, it's an American psyop. Does that necessarily mean it's totally bad? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think that the U.S. military has had to basically walk on thin ice, because they're dealing with an enemy that has basically taken over the rest of the world, and taken over Washington for sure. And it's an enemy that I refuse to talk about on YouTube. I slip up every once in a while and mention them, but it's something that collapses channels, so I don't really go into it. But I do intend on writing a thesis about it, but it's not going to get published on YouTube at all. But I think the military industrial complex, which is all unified, they're all allied together. Don't think that the U.S. the branches of the U.S. military are 100% allied to the branches of New Zealand, Australia, even Vladimir Putin. They're all on the same side. Don't think they're not. This is everything you see in world politics is a stage. Believe me, Shakespeare was right. We are avatars walking through a stage. And said, these are all preparations for major events, but I don't see them as necessarily bad. I think there's going to be a regime change in a lot of parts of the world. It's going to start in November this year. It's not just for the United States. I think it's going to be a domino that's going to rapidly fall in multiple different directions. And 6 months into 2023, we're going to be able to look back in awe at the rapidity of events and how they unfolded so fast. Like one after another, shotgun blasts. So, but 2023 has its surprises as well. And I've showed in multiple videos now how 2023 is perfectly mirrored in the date sequence, predictive analytics, and isometric projections. 2023 looks like a false flag Carrington event, something that will bring the internet down so they can bring up a new version.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions leading on from that one, or anything else? Yeah, who had their hand up there? Come on down. Here comes Tess. So Nasara and Jasara, we're not getting our money then.
Well, yeah. I really can't comment on the I'm not a financial officer. I don't see any fundamental changes in currencies. I see that it was planned, but I just don't see it in the next 2 to 4 years that there's going to be a global currency, that they're going to collapse currencies, that there's this great collapse in financial infrastructures that everybody's predicting is exactly the reason why I don't think it's going to happen. So over and over and over, and everything that I've recorded, that when the media is on board with predictions, the exact opposite is going to happen. When it's just the truther movement that's making the predictions, that's when you need to watch out. But no, this I believe that there's going to be a smooth transition in finances. I'm not fear-mongering on the collapse, a Wall Street collapse type worldwide phenomena. I don't see it coming.
Okay, great. Thank you. Oh, Tess said that you've just answered her question. So, all right. How are we going? Anyone else?
Well, I do have something to interject real quick.
Yes, thank you.
So one of the things that I do on my channel is I provide a balance, because I don't want to be that guy that's doomsaying. There's some pretty harrowing material on my channel because I've got to tell the truth about what I've found about world history. The Phoenix phenomenon every 138 years is one of those. The Nemesis X object every 792 years is one of those. One thing I haven't really released a lot of information on, but I have, is the dark satellite issue. Now, I have to maintain a balance though, because we as individuals, no matter what the collective is going through, we have a choice. If we want to borrow into that phenomenon, we're welcome to it. The simulacrum will open up its arms, the collective will open up its arms, AI, artificial intelligence X, will knit the necessary circumstances to include us in whatever the collective's going through. But all throughout history, we have many, many, many examples of terrible things happening to populations, but small communities being totally immune down to every single person. We have incidents in the individual where whole buildings would collapse in Italy, and 2 or 3 people that basically have the same history would walk right out. Trains crashing, and there'll be a sole survivor who just refused to believe that while the train was rolling was going to die. We have incidents of heinous car accidents where everyone from both vehicles dies except for one individual who admits, I just didn't feel like it was my time to go. So the informed field of the individual overrides any programming that encapsulates us. Anything that's in our immediate environment can be overridden by a co-creator. There is absolutely nothing in the collective that an individual who's vibrating on the right frequency needs to fear. And this is a message of a lot of my videos. We live in 2 different realities. You can be in your own personal universe while all hell's breaking loose around you, and you've got nothing to worry about. And this has been seen. We call them coincidence, or we call them anomalies. We often misidentify them as miracles. But that's the collective's interpretation of phenomena that they cannot understand. This is when you are a personality that basically self-actualizes, you understand who you are. Once that realization overtakes you, there's nothing in your immediate environment. Believe me, you're listening to a guy who has a lot of enemies. You guys may not know this, but there are whole YouTube channels that are designed just to attack me personally and Archaix. That's all they do. Emails, believe me, I am immune to every bit of this. I don't even dignify them with responses. I'm still growing. My channel's growing so fast, I don't care about nothing they have to say. But it's because I've made the active choice to be me despite the collective. I don't care what's going on around me. I have a focus, I have an agenda, and I am absolutely no different than anybody listening to my voice right now. We are all divine, immortal beings. We have a benefactor who basically threw us into a situation where there's really no danger, but we think there is.
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful message. Yeah. And talking about your rapidly growing fan base, I even heard an interview Max Egan did the other day, and Max was a speaker at one of our conferences a few years ago, and I heard him complaining about the Mexican mail, saying, I'm waiting for 5 weeks. I've been waiting for a USB from Jason. So even Max Egan is waiting to get your USB.
Yeah, New Zealand and Mexico are the only two countries I've had problems with. I've sent about 500 USBs everywhere, but those two countries there, they've given me grief. That's why I started. That's why I had the whole super pack redesigned, and I had the file made small, and I put it on Podia so anybody can just download it now. Because international customs, they're a nightmare. They're a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to just tell everyone how they can access that? Where do they go?
First of all, the super pack is 5,500 pages of images, charts, and all data by which I did 340 something videos. There's no videos on that USB, on that download. It's all the articles I wrote, every single published book. The actual book is on the USB. All my unpublished books I haven't got around to publishing, or I may never, I don't know. It's about 17 books in all, 200 and something articles, transcripts to videos, 350 something charts. All together, I can't remember everything that's on it, but it's 5,500 pages. It's 100% of everything that was on my hard drive. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't something I was trying to market. From the very beginning on my channel, when I made my discoveries about the Carrington event, and then I supported them with another video from a totally different mathematical vantage point. It was the problem I was confronted with was, well, if this is all true, I need to make sure that my information can be spread all over the world. And who cares if the internet goes down? Who cares if the internet goes down? Then it's this information is going to be everywhere. I mean, you can't go through the super pack fast. It'll take you a long time to go through all that material, and that all the source materials, all the sources. So I made it cheap. I made it really cheap so I could cover international costs and all that. Made it $60, and then the cost of the drives and the packaging, and I got to pay my help. So I was done. I got 300. I sold 300 of them, and all around the world, and I was satisfied. Good. All the information's out. If YouTube collapses my channel, I'm cool. I got all these people that have this drive. If anything ever happens to me, if my avatar ceases and Jason Brashears is no longer here, that on the drive, I've given 100% copyright. I've absolved copyright for anybody to do whatever they want with material. Start your own channel, start your own social networks, write your own books from the data that's in there. Do whatever you want to do. Just spread the material. So that's what it started as. Now it's something that's done on a daily. I started something. Now I sell super packs every day. But that wasn't my intent, but that's okay. It's all right. I mean, if you're anybody interested in the super pack, it's every single video. I have a little link in the pinned comment. But yeah, I don't want to waste y'all's time talking about that.
Oh, well, just what's the best link? Is it just to go to archaix.com or?
Oh, well, listen, archaix.com is everything. If you just go there, you can spend a lot of time on their website just going through stuff. Yeah, it has the
website.
Yeah, it has the gates for everything.
Yeah, University of Jason. We could spend years.
Don't get that started.
All right, one more from. Oh, I'm so bad with names. Judith is coming over. Kelly will go.
If there was one thing that we could take from this to move forward in a positive way, regarding who we truly are and what we can truly give to ourselves and the world, what image or focus or message would you give?
Mine would be very simple. Every morning when you wake up, you need to remind yourself that you owe no one anything. you don't owe the world anything, that you're here to learn, that you're not guilty of anything, that you or your predecessors have never done anything to earn the negative situations that you've experienced in this life. None of that. Once you divorce yourself from that programming, the rest of us, your own immortalhood is just going to start taking over. Once you have completely divorced yourself from the negative default programming, it's a process, I get it, but once you've done it, everything comes your way. I mean, there's nothing, all the information that you could ever want, you're going to get an information overload. The people that you need to meet when you need to meet them, they're going to come to you without effort. Material, circumstances, aid or help for whatever you need, even things that you never even thought, that directions that you were going to take, you're going to start taking them. This is once you are not vibrating on the frequency of the collective and you're doing something new, then all the potentiality and all the possibilities are available to you. I can't predict what it's going to do for you as an individual. I just know that you're not going to be looking back anymore, and you're not going to be ever in the position to ask me that question again.
Anyone else? Yeah, Mick, Robert. So, you know, we've got quite a few flat earthers. Not that we particularly like that term. I don't believe that we're on a spinning ball flying through space, and I don't believe that you know, NASA is what they say they are, not a space agency, as I like to say. So we've got Bob about to come on. He's just launching his book at this conference all about flat Earth. So I'm sure Bob's got a good question about that for you.
Hello, Bob.
Thanks very much. Too close. Thanks very much, Jason. Fantastic talk. And I've just been jotting down notes after notes after notes. Look, my question doesn't relate to flat Earth. Basically, there's too many speakers on flat Earth. I've just published a small booklet on the flat Earth, which I'll be talking about on Friday. But the question I want to put to you is there sort of like an overall agenda? We sort of assume that something put us here and that there must have been a purpose for us being here alive on Earth with a consciousness. It doesn't make sense to me that, you know, this depopulation, the elite, the cabal, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, they have done pretty well with 7 billion people. I've been on about population, managing population for all of my life, or all of my adult life. And I got told by politicians, you know, like if we have 2/4 of a negative growth, well, we'll get voted out. But now they're all on board with depopulation. I can't connect the dots. Maybe you've got some comment on that?
Well, as far as the flat Earth goes, we have to judge a concept by its reaction. Let me give you an example. When flat Earth came out, social media, the elite, all the owners of the mega corporations, nobody took it seriously because nobody was really on board. It was just a curiosity. Then when a significant amount of the population was beginning to entertain the idea, then all of a sudden you get your WikiLeaks tags talking about flat Earth is just a false concept of from the ancient world. You get all these little tags on social media showing it. Well, you don't get those tags for a lot of topics that are talked about today that are controversial. But there are three main things that those tags come up on. One of them is flat Earth. The other one is Anunnaki, and the other one is COVID. Anytime somebody mentions any one of those three things on any videos on YouTube and a lot of other platforms, you get that little disclaimer by basically the establishment saying, well, this is an untrue concept and all that. So when it comes to the whole flat Earth deal, to me, as I've addressed in my videos, it's it's a stepping stone to simulation theory. You and I are way too tiny to ever be able to objectively prove the shape or dimensions of the earth. We are always going to have to extrapolate or rely on data sets that were done by others. We'll never objectively know anything about our world except for what's in our immediate environs. So really, to me, the whole flat earth deal is it's become redundant. I don't want to entertain it anymore. I only have one flat earth video, and I'm not promoting flat earth. I'm promoting simulation theory. And in my video, I'm showing actual photography that I did showing the reflection of sunlight on the bottom of clouds over a continent that has no ocean for over 1,000 miles. So I was just illustrating points that this has to be simulated, because the whole video is about simulation theory. So I really don't want to go into it. I agree in many of the experiments in zetetic astronomy. I have Gleason's book and I have Eric Dubé's book right here on my shelf. I have read those books. The laser experiments that were done over 25, 30 miles of water showing absolutely no 8-inch declivity per mile are convincing to me that we live on a flat plane. But are we living on a flat plane within a torus field, which is showing a projection of a cosmos, or are we living on an indefinite flat plane that goes on forever? I don't know. Are we on a spinning ball? I highly doubt it. If we are, the ball is so gigantic that the 24,000 mile diameter that we're given right now can't possibly be true. So these are things that are entirely conjectural, and I don't want to really talk about them because I'm just too small to objectively know, and I don't want to rely on other people's data sets. I want to rely on my own. So simulation theory answers all the enigmas and all the scientific experimentation of the ancient and the relatively modern world. But flat Earth has its problems. But like I said, I can't argue against the experiments because I agree with them. I can't argue against 25 miles of flat surface of water. I can't argue that. I said, when it's demonstrated and shown, I have to accept it as fact. That's amazing. Does it mean the whole world's flat or just that one body of water's flat over a curvature? I don't know. So I just can't. The whole flat earth has just become so toxic that I'm going to stick to what I can mathematically demonstrate, and that is simulation theory.
Thank you. I think everyone who's not in the frame, hello, just jump in so we can all give Jason a big thanks and a wave goodbye. So everyone just move over and bunch up so we can say goodbye to him. He can see us all. You'll have to all move over, all move over.
That's quite a few people there. I didn't see all that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, total respect. That was awesome. I know that you're going to give everyone so much to talk about now, and their minds will be working overtime. So thank you so much, Jason. We really, really appreciate your time. And yeah, we'll hopefully see you around at another event.
All right, I'll be there.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Oh, how good was that? Thank you. Wow. Thanks, cup of tea.